Right, field spells that are engines among themselves. Um, I definitely am a fan of these field spells because they are a strategy all on their own, and they make great tech cards, especially since their field spells are searchable. So you got obviously the field spell Pacifist, the Phantasm City. Great card. I'm a big fan. To me, that was like, oh, it's a staple, no doubt about it. Mainly because it's a continuous card because it's a field spell, right? So it stays on the field. Love that. So it's an infinite resource, and every time my opponent plays a card or an effect, and that card resolves after resolution, I get a token. Yay! And the token is an 8-star Worm type water monster that has 2000 attack, 2000 defense. So typically, once I get the token, I always put it in defense mode for many obvious reasons. 2000 defense is pretty decent, still good. It can block a lot of attacks. Specifically, any attack that's normal summon. It's rare for somebody to normal summon a 2100, right, or a 2500 or 3000 or 4000. So it's rare, not impossible, but rare. Obviously, you can special summon something stronger, but than 2000 defense. But I'm just saying, like, when it comes to like normal summoning something, you know, the attack of the monster tends to be 2000 or less, or typically under 2000. So this is pretty good in that regards of protecting against a basic normal summon play. But if your opponent special summons and whatnot, that's where your back rolls for, right? So the ability to create, a token that you can defend with, but also be able to attack with. And it's a free attacker. You can attack with and not even worry about Mirror Force. Oh, you play Mirror Force? That's okay. The token dies. Now, the field spell activates. I make another token. And I put it in attack mode. And now I can attack with that token. Yay! Your Mirror Force is a neg one. Right? So I always like making plays like that. Just like the idea of somebody playing Regeki or Dark Hole, and then I still get the tokens. So they pop my token, but then I got a token. So I love that. So that's why this type of card is awesome. A single card that can make your opponent waste resources just because they have to deal with what the card does. Now, granted, you could be like, well, if they MSC the field spell, then you get nothing. Well, yeah, they have to MSC. Ironically, I've been seeing too many players not main decking MSC. I've even seen players not side deck MSC. Therefore, it's like, oh, you have less stuff to pop it with. You can obviously try to say, well, most of them play Phoenix. Yeah, but I can also negate Phoenix summoning or his effect. Therefore, it doesn't matter, right? It's easier for me to negate a monster's effect or a summoning of a monster than it would be to negate like a spell card. Because the most common way I negate a spell card is either through a monster effect or through Dark Bribe. So my opponent's not really negative if I'm Dark Bribing because they'll draw a card to replace that card, right? But the thing is that, I'd rather they use two resources. Think about it. They're using like two monsters to make Nightmare Phoenix. Then they have to discard a card for Nightmare Phoenix's effect. So that's three cards they're using to try to pop my field spell. But I'm going to just end up, negating it. So then it was pointless. Or, let's say I don't negate it. Well, good. You used up three resources from your 6-card hand just to get rid of my field spell. My one card. I played one card, and that one card was enough to make you use up three resources from your hand just to get rid of it. Just so that way I don't have it as resource. And then later on I play Terraform and get another copy and play it anyway, and then you back to square one, right? That's what's so awesome about it, is that, that if you don't get rid of it, it will be a problem. If you get rid of it, it can still be a problem if I just play another one or just add the one in the graveyard back to my hand. It's like, oop, I flipped my Magician of Faith, got it right back, you sick. Or whatever card I used to recycle it, right? So I could keep talking about the awesomeness of the field spell, but let's move on to the next field spell. Just a little bit more. Pacifist, of course, has the ability where you can add a spiral card from your deck, a Phantasm spiral card from your deck to your hand. And there's the battle one, and then there's the spear, I think it's called. So there's two traps that you can play. One negates monster effect, and one pops destroys a card on the field, which is good with this. And that right there alone is an engine. Just by playing the field spell, then getting the field spell's effect to make the token, then because you summon the token is a normal monster. Remember that. It triggers field cards effect to let you search out either one of those trap cards. So, it's deck thinning, so, it's an engine to help you deck thin. Plus, it gives you the ability to use stuff. Plus, the fact that with the field card, you can play these cards from your hand as long as you only control normal monsters. And the token is a normal monster. You can play these trap cards from your hand because the trap cards have that ability. So that's the awesomeness of being able to not only add them to your hand during your opponent's turn, but also be able to play them from your hand during your opponent's turn. It's also awesome. So right there, if you add the traps with the field spell, you got a very powerful, engine that thins out your deck, and it's kind of like Upstart Goblins, but Upstart Goblins with benefits, right? Because you're thinning out your deck by adding them to your hand, and then you're using them to disrupt your opponent's plays and just do some good stuff. I'm so surprised not many people play it. I definitely play it. I enjoy every bit of using it. I use it in my Exodia deck. I use it in my Paleozoic deck. Obviously, because the traps, I can use the traps. Traps trigger the Paleozoics. I use this in my burn deck because being able to make the tokens so I can stall and defend while I'm burning my opponent with all these traps is just too good. Especially if I end up in a scenario with my opponent plays like a Jinzo or Royal Decree or something, just summoning monsters. The field spell will keep making tokens to stall and defend me long enough. I've beaten many people with just this field spell alone. Well, enough about bragging about this card's awesomeness. It should be obvious that it's a good card all on its own. It's a deck in itself, as well as you can tech it in any deck. It's a great tech card. Whether you main deck or side deck it. Side decking it definitely makes it funny because your opponent won't expect it. Like, what? Why is this there? Black Garden. Again, these field spells can be teched in. Like you can main deck them or you can side them in. However way you want to do it. You can build a deck around them. That's what makes them so awesome. The fact that you can... The fact that whenever a monster is normal special summon, Black Garden would cut that monster attack in half, and then special summon a monster to the opposite side of wherever that monster is summoned. So if your opponent summons monsters, you get tokens. If you summon monsters, your opponent gets tokens. So you could try to take advantage of that. Since the tokens are dark and they are plant types, you can try to do some goals and match rivalry warlord type play. Especially if you're already side decking those, you can use Garden with them in conjunction, so that way it slows your opponent down. Because you'll play Garden, then summon a monster, then they get a token. Now they have a dark plant on their side field, and then you set your back row, and then on their turn, you can just flip goals and match rivalry warlords, and boom, you have the advantage. Definitely useful to play goals and match if you're running a dark attribute deck, and your opponent is not. Then goals and match works great. Because since your deck is dark, when you get tokens, since they're dark, they won't cause you any problems, because your deck is dark. But if your opponent's deck is not dark, then it will be a problem for them. So that's something to take into account. Let's say your deck is plant, but your opponent's deck is not plant, then obviously this works good for you. So it's just how you play it. But in general, you could play this by itself, because remember, you can play this and then play, and play goals and match or rivalry, and then automatically just have the benefits of that. You don't even have to summon any monsters because you're getting tokens free of charge. Your opponent makes summons, you get a token, so you're getting free resources, free advantage, and with the goals and match rivalry type strategy, you have more control. All right. You could probably even do some DNA surgery type play with this as well. So just that alone, the fact that it can keep generating tokens and also make your opponent's monsters weaker. So if you use something like number 103 Ragna Zero, which can destroy a monster during either player's turn by detaching material that has an attack that's different than their original attack, then you can destroy them and then gain some life points. Yeah, its attack is different from its original attack, and you can just pop their monster, anything that's problematic, and then get a draw out of it. So it's like a trident. so to speak. All right, so moving on. Plus, I forgot to mention. Remember, you're halving their attacks, so you take less damage. So that's a good thing. Taking less damage. So if your opponent summons something with 4,000, it becomes 2,000. So they're only taking 1/4 of your life instead of 50% of your life. They're only taking 25% of your life. It's really good defensively. Like you could play Black Guardians in a chain burn deck, right? That way you're burning your opponent, and the opponent makes some plays. Summon monsters, you get tokens. You can use the tokens to defend yourself. Interesting enough, if most of their monsters have 1600 or less attack, the tokens have 800 attack. So half of 1600 is 800, but if your opponent is summoning 1500s, 1400, 13, so forth and so forth, their attacks are gonna be less than 800, which means they won't be able to run over or even kamikaze right into your 800 tokens. Plus, if you can make your tokens stronger by like a card effect or something that can make all plant type monsters type feel stronger, at least by 200 or more, then it makes it easier and easier for you to be able to defend, because once they summon, they'll lose half their attack. You'll make a token, and that token will be strong, and it'll be hard for your opponent to deal with them. Something like Solidarity. Let's say you have a plant monster in the graveyard, you have Solidarity in the field. All your tokens are getting 800, so they'll be 1600. While your opponent monsters are losing attack. Your opponent summons a monster with 2,000 attack, or even if your opponent summons a monster with 3,000 attack, it'll become a 1,500. And your 600 tokens will, have the advantage. So that's really awesome, right? So stuff to think about. All right, moving on to extranet. Basically, it's a max C if you use it right? Because it's about whoever. If your opponent special summons, you draw from their extra deck. You draw a card. If you special summon from your extra deck, your opponent draws a card. But you're more likely going to special summon first, play this card, and then end your turn. Right? That's if you went first. If you went second, you're going to attack and do your usual stuff. But then in main phase 2, you'll play this before you end your turn, and then that way on their turn, when they try to summon from their extra deck to deal with your board, then you'll draw, and it'll just be there for whenever you need it. And as long as you can control your field and make sure your board doesn't get wiped out relatively easy, you'll be getting more pluses out of this than your opponent would ever get pluses out of this. So it's something to take into account. It's a draw engine itself if you use it right. If you have a deck that doesn't even summon from the extra deck, like a Malefic deck or True Dracos or something like that, then this is just a free plus. It's just like Upstart Goblin on crack type of stuff. And it's searchable. Remember that. Terraforming. Searchable. What's extra nice about something like extranet, right? Extra nice, extranet. Is the fact that you can use a card like Metaverse, which lets you take one field spell card from your deck, either add it to your hand or activate it. And obviously, you want to activate it. For instance, this Metaverse is a trap. Play this, activate from your deck onto the field, an extranet, and boom, there. And you did it once your opponent is set up to try to special summon. Or let's say they activate an effect like, oh, I activate this effect of this junk forward. Not junk forward. It's like, hey, I special summon this, which lets me special summon this. It's like, we know what you're going to do, special summon for extra deck. So on the last special summon, chain my trap, boom, play extranet. Now what you're going to do? Are you going to continue and link or exceed or sync or whatever you were going to do, or are you going to not? So then it'll give you a similar effect to the max C scenario. It's like, you know what? I don't want you to draw, therefore I'm not going to continue my extra deck summon play. But if they do, they take on the extranet challenge, that's what we'll call it now, right? Then you can plus. One more thing you can do extranet is if you can get the trap card appropriate to meet the conditions to activate it, whenever you summon, which forces your opponent to draw, you'll draw 2 cards. So that's something you can think about. Not something you'll do often, but it is something that could be done. It could become a 2-card engine where every time you summon from your extra deck, your opponent will draw a card and you will draw 2. And by you having 1 card more than your opponent, you still have the card advantage thing. Then we have Trickstar Light Stage. Adding a Trickstar monster from your deck to your hand is irrelevant. The whole dealing extra damage with Trickstar monsters by battle or by effect is irrelevant. You're mainly going to focus on if you're playing Trick Stars, all those two parts matter, right? But if you're not playing Trick Stars, the only part that matters is that once per turn you can target one set card in your opponent's phone trap card zones while this card is in the field zone. That set card cannot be activated until the end phase, and your opponent must activate it during the end phase, or else they have to send it to the graveyard. So the fact that you can, freeze a back row, a trap, or a set spell card that's set there to make you think it was a trap, but it turns out it wasn't when the turn ends, right? But the ability to freeze one set card in one spell trap zones is very useful, and being able to do that every turn, and then during the end phase potentially get rid of it is awesome. The ability to just freeze it for before during your main phase, do what you gotta do, and then when you end your turn, it'll disappear. It's just too good. It's inherently it's just generic. It's not like you gotta have Trick Stars to use this. So that's why it makes it such a great field spell engine. It works good by itself. So MSTs are good because of quick plays. You can control when you use it. They come in handy in many scenarios. But it doesn't hurt to have this on top of that, to have an extra card, especially since it's a field spell, it's searchable. So the ability to search it out and have access to it whenever you want. Just play it, use it, target something, force your opponent to have to play the game under your terms instead of their own terms, right? And then being able to recur this every turn. If somebody sees you playing this and be like, "Oh, you're playing Trick Stars," and in reality you're not, you're playing Gokis or something, that'd be hilarious, right? It's like, "Oh, surprise, you thought." So that's another benefit of the card, is that it's a Trick Star card, so somebody might assume you're playing Trick Stars. So that mind game aspect, it's very helpful when you're playing. Then we have Cynet Universe. It power-ups all link monsters you control, so that's really good. It only makes sure link monsters strong, and mostly 90% of players play some link monster, at least one or two in your extra deck. So that little extra 300 boost is useful, especially if you're trying to go for game. Plus, just having that little extra boost sometimes comes in handy. If somebody has Firewall Dragon on their side, you summon a Firewall Dragon. Well, both of you have the same attack, but with the field spell, you have 300 more, so that matters more. So then the effect that matters the most, the effects of this card is really good, but the one that matters the most is once per turn you can target one monster in your graveyard, shuffle it back into that. That means you can even target a monster, a link monster, or a synchro, exceed, or whatever, that's in the graveyard, target it, put it back in your extra. So that's awesome. So the ability to recycle something, so you can reuse it in case you want to recycle your Topia package, right? Or you want to recycle a Sky Blast or Type of Dragon Infinity or something. You need to recycle, or just in general, you want to recycle a Firewall Dragon. It might have been a Kaiju or something of that nature. You just put it back with this card and then just relink and summon it again. So that's awesome. The ability to resummon something, recycle a monster in general is awesome. Normally I used to use Monster Reincarnation because it had many uses, but a lot of times I use Monster Reincarnation to recycle a monster from my, like a Black Rose, like Monster Reincarnate Black Rose from the graveyard, put in my extra deck, then Synchro for Black Rose and board wipe. So this is awesome, the fact that I can use it more than once. But if I Black Rose, obviously it'll be gone. It'll be a one-shot trick, but you get the idea. But then it has its third ability, which is really good, especially if you want to break U-Link. Your opponent U-Links you, so now you don't have space in your extra deck. Well, you can play Cynet Universe and play some card that can destroy it, like MST, for example. MST it because the card says if this card on the field is destroyed by a card effect, MST destroys, and it's a card effect. Send all monsters in the extra monster zones to the graveyard. So it's a good way of destroying the extra link scenario that you might end up in, and then you can summon from your extra deck. Maybe even you link your opponent. You know what I mean? So that's something to take into account. But the main part of this card is that you want to use the target monster in the graveyard ability over again. It's a really good effect to recycle stuff, especially if you're like putting back hand traps or cards in general that have effects that, like, let's say you have a card that says, once per turn you can summon a monster from your deck onto the field, and then you do that, they use that monster for whatever reason you want to use it for, like link summon or something. then the ability to put it back in the deck so you can summon again later would be very useful. Especially if the monster has a effect when it's summoned onto the field, it does something. So summon this monster onto the field, do something with it. Then send it to the graveyard for an effect or a summoning of something. Then put it back in the deck so that way next turn I can summon it again. So that's very useful. If you have, like, let's say you have a monster that has an ability to once per turn you can summon a monster from your deck, then that's what you want to do. You summon that monster from the deck. You could use it for like tribute fodder, like tribute to something like a monarch or something. Get the monarch's effects. And then use the field spell, put that monster back in the deck, and then next turn you can summon it back from the deck onto the field because of your monster effect. If the monster's still there, and then you can tribute the monster and summon a monarch. You get the idea. So the ability to, recycle stuff is very useful, especially if you can always search it. Like if every turn you can search out these monsters. Very useful. I just started thinking like the usefulness of this in a Malefic deck. The ability to take the Malefic monster and put it back in your back into your deck, so that you can draw it again later. Since it is a field spell, you can just summon Malefics with this. Moving on. All right. Golden Castle of Stromberg. Technically, it could be considered more of a floodgate field spell than like an engine-based field spell, but it can double as both depending on how you look at it. The whole once per turn during your standby phase, you banish the top 10 cards of your deck face down. That is massive deck thinning, so that right there can help you out greatly into getting to the cards you want by greatly reducing the amount of cards in your deck that you're going to end up drawing. And then, and that is not optional, but you have to do that. And then it has the ability to summon a monster, but that's not important. This part is when an opponent's monster declares an attack, destroy the attacking monster. If you do inflict damage to your opponent, equal to half that monster had on the field. So that's awesome. So it doesn't have to do with the original attack. So if somebody attacked with a monster and they let's say play removal, so now the monster has 8,000 attack, well, this will destroy it and they'll take 4,000. You know what I mean? Because it's based off of half of the attack it had on the field, not its original attack. So that's always useful. And and this happens every time you want to attack. So put them in a position where you force them to attack all the monsters. That's awesome. Monsters will just die. They'll take damage. They'll die. They'll take damage. And that's always awesome. So that alone, just this card alone, can win you a duel under the right conditions, of course. Which is you're opponent summoning monsters and you're forcing them to attack you, and they just end up killing themselves in the process. I'm trying to think of a way you can force them to attack. Oh, this card, obviously a couple cards can force them to attack. I'm thinking force them to be able to have a monster to attack and be able to keep having monsters on the field and have the ones that keep attacking, right? Just a way to generate monsters and have them attack, generate monsters and have them attack you. But just alone, just by playing this card can give you an advantage. I rather play Pacifist. That's just more my preference. Black Gardens are also just as awesome, but this has potential. So right there is 6 field spells that just on their own is an engine all in itself. You just play it, it does what it does when it does. And you can definitely get those effects off and trigger them multiple times, and have advantage in a duel by playing very little cards, just like a field spells here and there. Play one field spell and it just gives you an advantage, which is so awesome. Because I wish I could play multiple field spells. Oh my god, that'd be awesome to have multiple field zones. I could play multiple field cards. I go crazy with that. Crazy. All right, that's the end of the video.